This video essay will be looking into how important the combination of the surrealist art movement and short film theory is to the advertising industry. This short analysis will compare and contrast a surrealist film, Un Chien Andalou, directed by Luis Buñuel and created by Salvador Dali in 1929, to multiple examples of advertising, and subsequently delving into two examples of adverts in more depth. Using only Un Chien Andalou because it is considered one of the two 100% surrealist films, and therefore is the best example available to compare to contemporary advertising. At the core, surrealism is acts of defiance against conformism and the bourgeoisie system, essentially in contradiction of what it has arguably become. On top of this, surrealism is an intention to damage the Western dualistic view of good and evil, which formed the underlying premise of the surrealist commitment to the irrational and absurd. It is these techniques of the absurd and irrational that have been transferred to advertising. Also, Un Chien Andalou holds multiple examples of surrealist techniques, such as match cuts that can be translated to advertising. Furthermore, this video essay will look into how advertising is related to short film theory following the rules of what is expected, but also how they use key theory to be studied further. This is no more pertinent than when looking at Bevan Yateman, who states an expression of an idea on a shorter scale, often expressive and tends towards the abstract, an idea that is complete in itself. It is Yateman's statement of towards the abstract that is in fact key here. It opens up this argument perfectly and highlights how the advertising sector can be seen to be inherently related to surrealism through its abstract nature. Peter Drummond states that much of the output of the modern advertising industry are heirs apparent to that earlier convolution in the artistic and cinematic imagination. As can be seen with Un Chien Andalou, the pictures playing do not make much sense logically in narrative terms. The use of suggestions, like the ants in the hand, and intersectional narrative is used to try and attempt a social revolution within the society it resides. Drummond's point highlights how the modern advertising industry has tried to use artistic and cinematic imagination, and in this case there is an argument to be said about how advertising potentially adopted surrealist filmic techniques. Therefore, to take this further, looking at examples of actual adverts is important. When seeing these examples, it is interesting to examine a quote by André Breton, the creator of the surrealist movement. "I believe in the future resolution of these two states, dream and reality, which are seemingly so contradictory, into a kind of absolute reality, a surreality." This can be seen throughout the examples. Of course, the founder of the surrealist movement likely didn't want surrealism to become something used to sell goods, and therefore be used to achieve something opposite to what the surrealists set out to do. However, the Old Spice, Coca-Cola, Nike and Sony commercials are clearly steeped in a dream, the advert, to sell a product, the reality, and this combination has created a surreality. This is further reinforced by the statement, many agencies adopting shock and other unconventional practices to elicit the desired response from the customer. This quote sums up what the aforementioned surrealism strives on, and this is no more obvious than in the Guinness advert. It in fact goes further and begins to be seen through the lens of social adaptation theory, which suggests that using something that is unexpected, novel, out of context, will stimulate the brain and essentially make people pay attention to the advert, and raise the probability of someone buying it. It can be argued that the shocking and abstract surrealist techniques seen within Un Chien Andalou, and then subsequently within the advert shown, can be attributed to social adaptation theory. When looking at a commercial more in depth, it is obvious of why using surreal techniques can be beneficial. As Homer and Kale state, it is not surprising that the advertisers would also seek to create unique, unexpected and dreamlike images for use in promotions, because advertisers often try to gain customers' attention to fuel their fantasies and to induce them to view a product in a new light. This highlights the positive effect the randomness of surrealism can have for a product. When examining the Guinness commercial, the use of horses as the waves and the focusing on surfers makes no logical sense for the product itself. Therefore, the reason why it's done is to build an image around the product or the brand and the connotations the images depict. Therefore, when thinking about surfers, you think carefree, fun, camaraderie as they are in a group, physically active, but to name a few. Likewise, when thinking of horses, you think power and elegance, but the added image of horses as the waves suggests ferocity. Without saying any of these words, the commercial tells a story, tells the consumer what the product stands for, and sells it. This is talked about in the study done by Homer and Kale. They split a group of people into three, giving one group a surrealist ad, no description, just image, one group just description, and the third a surrealist ad plus description. Essentially, they gave the final group the Guinness advert. What they found was that the consumer could remember the surrealist ad, but nothing about the product fact-wise. The second group couldn't recite all the information they were given, and the final group were the most successful. The advert was memorable and the facts were recitable. This highlights the benefits of using surrealist techniques within adverts and shows how the surrealist film movements techniques have been adopted and manipulated to fit into another form of short film. As alluded to at the start of this video essay, a key part of allowing surrealism to thrive within advertising is a short film theory that resides alongside the techniques and visual aspects of the advertisements. When it comes to advertising, it must be able to tell a story, whether it is narratively logical or not, in a short space of time. Unlike most short films, and as has been seen with a Guinness advert, they don't necessarily need to be logical. Instead, the advert is used to build up an idea within the consumer. This is best summed up by Edgar Allan Poe, who stated that if any literary work is too long to be read at one sitting, we must be content to dispense with the immensely important effect derivable from any unity of impression. For if 2 sittings are required, the affairs of the world interfere and everything like totality is at once destroyed. This is a key point when it comes to advertising. Using the 1984 commercial playing right now as an example, the advert is using a narrative to sell a product. However, due to its short running time, it needs to be captivating and needs to make a point. The point here centres around using a fictional world and making it a reality, one which can be broken by the invention of an Apple computer. If this needed to be seen within 2 sittings, the attention of the audience would severely dwindle, which for an advert would be detrimental. Therefore, it is the use of surrealist techniques, coupled with Poe's ideas of unity of effect, that has made advertising become what we know today. Overall, the combination of short film theory and surrealist techniques makes the advert something even more interesting than first thought. Even though the discussed surrealism movement wouldn't have wanted to be associated with advertising and paying into the establishment, the absurd and outlandish manipulation of images adopted by advertisers makes it so selling products is a lot more productive than if just giving out information. However, it only works when combined with classic short film theory. Without the structure that it allows, people would view adverts in the same way surrealism was viewed. The image would stick with people, however the message would be lost. Where surrealism was incredibly drastic, adverts need to be grounded in an element of reality as to not lose the audience. All in all, advertising has utilised the parts of surrealism that benefits the sale of products. And as can be seen with the examples shown, they are amusing and memorable, and have subsequently created a brand for the products they are depicting.
IKEA.